wonders, as the saying goes, shall never end. As the once impossible Great Britain had become a shell of its old self. A tragic example to other nations to follow. That whatever you sow, you will reap. That retributive justice works. That the Lord of Purim works. The hole that they have dug for other nations, Britain has eventually entered into that hole. And it's a very big example to countries like America, who continue to subjugate other nations. Britain, look at Britain. Tragic scoundrel that has become a whimpering scoundrel that is afraid of its own shadows, that's even afraid to go out of EU. Britain that controls many nations now is afraid, postponing Brexit, because you want to use Biafran resources to build their own resources and depend on it. That is why you keep on postponing it. You can never do it. You are programmed to die. Brexit is their end. Tragic example. Look at it. That is what you plan to others. Now it has happened. The great whore that sitteth upon many waters. That's Revelation 17. Their end has come. Mystery Babylon. Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abomination of the earth. That's it. That committed fornication with kings and queens. I'm sorry, but that's what the scripture says. That's the Queen of England. Oliver the Cook. Also, Dike Kwaja, or Dike Wedenyindi Monarcha. That's why the king's days are prolonged to be very old. And when you depart this world, you go to your ancestors and tell them what is happening. The nemesis have caught up with you. That is it. A tragic example that remains an example. Now, what do you manufacture? You don't manufacture anything. Even Honda have closed their factory in London and all that. So what are you going to feed them? Their end has come. Their days of reckoning has come. So now we are going to see the great manipulators, these Western power manipulators. Let us see the forces that are manipulating them, and let the whole world pay attention to this episode that I'm going to, this particular submission I'm going to make, because this I've laid enough background. This is the main issue of dangers of being a Nigerian. One of the reasons why the Bible is believed today is because of the precise nature of the Bible. The ability of the Bible to accurately foretell future events is one of the reasons why the Bible is regarded as an authentic book. So I'm going to finally answer the danger of being a Nigerian by following the same precise stance by a book I wrote in 1998 that was published in 1999, Shining the Light Down from Above as the hero and heroine go home. It was Abiola, it was in memory of late Chief M.K. Abiola and the wife Kudirat. It was their death that galvanized me into activism. And I swore that those who killed them, I will bring them to justice. They are the same forces that are manipulating things today. That is the anti-Christ system, They are the same forces. So now, let me read from this particular book. And when I finish this book, I will show you the view of this particular book for us to understand. And this is the final document I will submit on this particular issue for people to decide whether they will remain in Nigeria or not. So let me go to the page. Let me do a random perusal of some pages, and I have to be very fast about it. It says, from page 2, let me just peruse some little pages. It says, you shall know the truth, and the truth you now know shall set you free. This book, I can even say, is the last Bible of the age. Because when you are reading it today, it will appear as if you are reading the papers of today. Just look and hear what had been said earlier. The precise nature of this book that was published in 1999 is what I'm reading. Now go on. It says, there are two powers in existence, power of God and power of Satan, divine wisdom and satanic wisdom, day and night, righteousness and unrighteousness, God's first Eden and Satan's last Eden, and so on and so forth. Two types of people are in existence in the world today, children of God and children of Satan, light and darkness, God's food and Satan's food, and so on and so forth. And there are only two types of people in Nigeria, children of light and children of darkness. I am writing today to the people of God, to the global children of God, anywhere they may be found, in order to acquaint them with the scriptural signs of the time and season in which we live. Revelation 12, 7-17. I'm quoting Revelation, and there was war in heaven, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into, I want you to note, earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. When the devil was cast out of heaven, of course, he did not go to Jupiter or Mars. He was cast out to planet Earth. My brethren, our problems in Nigeria are not ordinary at all. Our problems in Nigeria is a very unique problem and have remained intractable because of our inability to recognize the presence of Satan in our midst, which is the main root cause of our problems. Shine down the light from above and let the people of God see who is in their midst, and their blindness will receive sight, and never, never again will they be in the bondage of Lucifer and his cohorts, and the glorious sight of freedom will spring up a new freedom song that will run like opium on the people. Yes, brother, we refuse to recognize the physical presence of the former highest ranking cherubim in heaven in the order of God's initial creation, the former cherubim of overshadowing light. That's Ezekiel 28:14. The anointed cherub that covered a super intelligent spirit being, sealed wisdom. The same old serpent, the same ancient spirit that was in Eden, the same ancient spirit that incarnated the serpent and begat Eve while Adam slept. The presence of fallen angel Lucifer in our midst, is that location is in our gunpowder, because Nigeria is Satan's Eden, last Eden, last stronghold, last home. Satan in our gunpowder is the elusive element in Nigerian's problem, the great mystery of our various watershed experiences as a nation. I only beg for indulgence as we look back into time and trace the footprint of Satan on the stand of time to represent Nigerian Eden. Eden was a special place mapped out by God where he made a garden and put man, as Eden was not the whole earth. Adam and Eve were satisfied in their location in Eden, but when they sinned, they lost their central location as they were removed from Eden and they became wanderers. When Lucifer fell from heaven, he became a wanderer on earth. He knew God was going to create man and that very soon the earth will be filled with children of God, but know that Satan lacked the ability to create, as he is not a creator but only a provider of that which God had made. And also Satan is not omnipresent like God and can only be in one place at a time. He plotted the fall of man in order to scuttle the work of God. As a smart master strategist, he mapped out the earth very, very well, understanding his domain. Even in roaming to and fro, he knew he needed abbots and satellites. He went about the earth making his abbots from nation to nation, like a rabbit hole, creating an escape route from one abbot to another, and so on and so forth. And like God's first Garden of Eden, Satan knew he has to have a final home, the ultimate final home and last quarter, after which he will revert to a wanderer as in the beginning. That last abode of Satan is Nigeria, Satan's Eden, Satan's paradise, Satan's delight, last stronghold and headquarters. Pushing Satan out of his stronghold put him on an almost zero time frame, because it will mark the fulfilling of the scripture, wearing and roaming, knowing that he had but a short time. He will be most afraid to leave his last stronghold. He knew God is seeing him, because when you are above, goldfish will have no hiding place below. He knew both him and God as spirit, and we need human vessels to achieve their goals. Satan initially believed he will pollute every man, thereby making them unholy and unworthy to be used as vessels of realizing God's aim, but he found out he was wrong too late. What Satan is doing on a permanent basis now is what he has been doing from time immemorial, from one nation to another, as he withdraws from one nation to another, as he loses from one stronghold to the other, because as the people get organized and put in place a social system that gives power to the people, or that introduces a deeper degree of justice and fair play, the devil leaves immediately to another nation where he will put confusion and take orderliness and unity in place of chaos and confusion, chases Satan away. Over the years, the gluttony of ancient Lucifer had become so large that only few nations can afford to feed Lucifer even on a breakfast scale alone. It is God's food that we live righteously, loving one another, being our brother's keeper, and every positive and holy action, and God's appetite in this direction is insatiable until all works of the devil is cancelled. Satan's food, on the other hand, is unrighteousness, evil, pain, misery, anger, disorderliness, wickedness, and every imaginable deep-seated evil, especially against innocent people who will not honorably serve Satan. A situation where darkness is trying to extinguish light, even though light is the greatest disgracer of darkness, is Satan's food. He has been drunk with the blood of his innocent people for a very long time, and his appetite is wonderful, amazing, and frightening. Nigeria in Africa is Satan's last Eden, and remains the only nation on earth today that have the human and material resources to maintain the gluttony of ancient Lucifer, as it was in Eden when Satan began Eve. the very same ancient Satan has been beguiling us here in Nigeria. Woe to the earth, for the devil have come to live with us. What have been our Lord in Nigeria since the beginning? Woes of course. Let me just do some explanation here. I told you the earth planet as God created it have no problem. The earth planet have no problem. The problem with the earth planet is that there is a covering on the earth planet. That covering, you can even say is Satan, you know. There's a covering, you know, negative forces that cover the earth. That's the problem with the earth planet. And this negative forces is animated. It feeds as I feed. As you feed, that is how it feeds. It doesn't eat the literal food that we eat. It feeds on the blood of innocent people. That is what is happening here. So what are we talking about? What we are talking about is that Nigeria is the only country in the whole world that can even afford to feed the devil, even just on a breakfast scale, because his appetite is so large. And what is his food? Unrighteousness. You see what we started creating from the Darwin missing link. Unrighteousness is the food. This unrighteousness are what? The real Christians, the real Christ followers in Nigeria are the food that this devil is. What is the implication? The implication is that if you remain to be in Nigeria, you will continue to be the cannon fodder that this devil feeds on until all of us are exhausted. It is the exhaustion of these people as a reason of his appetite that will make the devil to go global in form of the Antichrist. That is the problem. I will give you a review of this book, and I will still continue to read so that we understand exactly where we are and what is the problem that we face, the real danger of being a Nigerian and the implication of it. So we are still coming down, you know, from the biblical perspective to actually see the main human actors, you know, of this clash of civilization in our modern time. You know, we are still going. You know, I've told you about what the American ambassador said, and my name still remains Chinyere Ezog, the income writer and the messenger of the message of the Kaka, that is actually bringing the revelation of the present truth, especially to the elect of God in this perilous time that we live in. So continuing, you know, the progression of these human elements, there's another newspaper I want to read. It says how they destroyed Nigeria. Mbazulike Amoichi. This is in Vanguard of August 17, 2019. Mbazulike Amoichi is the only surviving Igbo Zikis. You know, he opens up on Ojukwu, and because of the Civil War, he was the first Republic Minister of Aviation. So now let's look at the contents of the interview that he had. What he said in that interview. He said, and I'm quoting him, he said at that time, Gowon was a lieutenant colonel, and he was the highest ranking officer in the army from the north. So when they called him to come and be the head of state, he could not say no, so he had no choice, and nobody should blame him or any action he took, because at that time, he had no choice. It was the British Intelligence Service and the British government who wanted to destroy and solve the Igbo question, because they never liked the Igbos until today. Britain hates Igbos. British government is always anti-Igbo in Nigeria. And then he was asked the question, why do you say that, sir? Do you have some reasons to back up that claim? And his response is this: yes, this is because the Igbos played a great role in nationalism that led to the agitation and politics that drove them away from Nigeria. It was Igbos that led the political agitation that saw them out of Nigeria, drove them away, drove away British government from Nigeria. Then his comment on Igbo presidency in 2023. What do you think? And he said, I'm quoting him, before Dr. Nambazikiwe breathed his last, he spoke to me and handed to me a 6-inch long golden key and told me something. That is why I say I have a key to Igbo presidency in 2023. Igbo presidency of either APC or PDP, if they will humble themselves enough, they should come to me and believe that I have the solution to that problem. Nothing is impossible before God, and with proper organization and strategy, it is possible. My sincere advice to Igbo is that God has kept me for a purpose, and the political actors in Igbo land can hear. God has kept me for a purpose. At 90 years, I am fairly physically all right. I am still fairly mentally balanced. My sight is good. My hearing is good. My mental balance is good. My memory is good. I have all it takes. God has a purpose for keeping me. And if they will care, let them come to me. APC or PDP, let them come to me. The Igbo people in those parties, let them come to me, and I will tell them what to do and how we can get Igbo presidency. Well, the key that Jig gave you was not about Igbo presidency. It was about Igbo freedom. That is the key that he gave you. It was about Igbo presidency and not about, it was about Igbo freedom and not about Igbo presidency. And that is the key we are going to use to get ourselves from this house of slave, house of money that is called Nigeria, from the evil forest that is called Nigeria, into the King's Express Highway of freedom, to freedom. And that is how it will happen in Jesus' name. So from this action, from this thing we read here, you will now see that there is a force behind what is happening in Nigeria. You see what he said about British government. And that is where I am going in danger of being a Nigerian. You have seen that there is a force. And you remember what Benguli told you in his interviews about the 5 measures. There were 8 measures. I will still come back to that later. It was the British propaganda that led to the cause of the Civil War. When the BBC went and announced on air that the Igbo officers are killing the Hausas and the Fulanis, then that was what precipitated the war against the Biafrans. So you have seen what I said. Now, let's weigh the evidence of what this Mbazulike Amaechi said to see whether it is the truth. And Mbazulike Amaechi can be likened to John the Baptist, who was the bridge between the Old Testament and the New Testament. He was the last prophet of the Old Testament, and he heralded the New Testament. What does that tell you? The last of the living of the Zikis. It means that he will live to see the full restoration of the Biafran Republic. He is the bridge between the old and the new. Because I told you, the Bible is playing itself out to the same exactitude. And that is what we are saying. Now, let's weigh the evidence of what you said, whether it's correct. And I'm giving you authorities to substantiate all my submissions, on the dangers of being a Nigerian. After this, Nigerians will choose whether they will keep their country or not. But I'm there, and I've told you my mission is total destruction of Nigeria. To extricate, at least to take away our people, Biafra from Nigeria. The rest can continue if they want. Now, let's weigh the evidence of what this man said, Mbazulike Amaechi said, the views of a very prominent and highly ranking British citizen, an authority like a former British colonial officer of Old Lagos, Harold Smith, has this to say in 2005 on that unfortunate incident of the Nigerian and Biafran Civil War that is being recorded today, surreptitiously going on in their already declared jihad against the Christian communities in Nigeria, actively aided by the devilish schemes of most Western powers against the Biafrans in Nigeria. Harold Smith said in an interview that, and I'm quoting his exact word, he said, the British care deeply about oil. There, the government showed no particular affection to Nigeria in general or in particular. The colonials, with their enormous experience, had been marginalized and dispersed. I'm still quoting him. They did not care and had something strong. They did not care and had sometimes strong loyalty to particular tribes, but they made no impact on the media. They just disappeared. The media was simplified and had a lot of sympathy with Biafran propaganda, which I did not relate to. Politicians did not give a damn so long as they backed the winning side and got the oil. Biafrans won a propaganda war and lost touch with reality or even began to believe their own propaganda. It became very emotional and sentimental. Britain wanted to be on the winning side and keep the oil flowing. Ojukwu seemed out of touch with real politics. The federal military seemed clueless. A diplomatic solution, that is keep on talking, was the only realistic solution for the Biafrans. The whole war was Alice in Wonderland fantasy. Not very knowledgeable Britons split pro or anti-Biafran, but the experienced ex-colonial did not. It was just an Afro strategy for Nigeria generally. There was no remorse by the British whatsoever. I'm afraid the British do not love Nigerians in a rational way and now have compassion fatigue. Talk of millions is meaningless. As Stalin said, one death is a misfortune. 3 million. The United Nations estimate of Biafran death is a statistics. It is heartbreaking to realize it, but neither Nigeria nor Biafrans exist as part of the British consciousness. That is what he said. And then, responding to yet another question put to him, the question is, do you really blame Britain for investing in a people it thought could cover its track and cater for its interests after departing Nigeria? After all, self-interest is the centerpiece of any nation, just as self-preservation is the first law of nature. He responded, a brilliant question. Why did I not think of that before? It is okay for an inferior nation or people to be selfish. It is not okay for the mother of parliament to destroy democracy. It is worse than hypocrisy. That is the sort of conduct the liberal Africans with. Harold Macmillan, the United Kingdom Prime Minister at the time of Nigerian independence in 1960, justified this disgusting behavior by calling Africans barbarians. That is what they call us. Now, this interview, the reference is an interview with Tell magazine published in March 21, 2005. You have seen it. Even at that, look at it. Even when Obasanjo criminally sold Bakassi to Cameroon and all that, which will be a topical issue on other series. What did the British government say? Look at it. I'm reading to you Sun, Daily Sun of Friday, October 24, 2014. Britain opposes rejection of, this is page 18. It says Britain opposes rejection of ICJ ruling. Britain opposes rejection of ICJ ruling on Bakassi. I'm quoting. It says Nigerian reject, that is in 2003. In 2003, look at what they said it in their memories. It said Nigerian rejection of the ruling of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, on this day in October 2003 met opposition from unlikely quarters. Britain, the nation's former colonial master. Speaking in Abuja, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Philip Thomas, said the verdict was binding on Nigeria since the country had pledged to honor the outcome of the court process before the ruling. At another forum, however, the nation's Foreign Affairs Minister, Alhaji Sule Lamido, said President Olusegun Obasanjo never made any commitment, insisting that the deliberation at the purported meeting were based on trust. Don't mind what Obasanjo said. When we come into the issue of Bakassi, we will tell you how Obasanjo sold it, with Richard Akinjide and all these Western gladiators and all that. We are going to come to that. But you see what Britain said? He said it is a binding on Nigeria. Whether Nigeria like it or not, they have to accept it. Because Obasanjo criminally went and played that whatever verdict. Up front, he went and played that whatever verdict that comes around, that is going to accept it, knowing that it is a dare. That is what happened. You see what British people say? Dangers of being a Nigerian. Dangers of being a Nigerian and the implication to the whole world. I have taken us on a progressive journey from the biblical perspective down to the human element behind the scene that are manipulating things in Nigeria. Western powers represented by the British government. Now we are going to progress. I'm still going to show you this human element that are manipulating things in Nigeria. There's equally a force that is manipulating this human element. I'm going to show you that force that is manipulating this human element after giving you this particular final document on the manipulator, the human manipulator, the British government and the atrocities they have been committing in Nigeria, which is the force behind what the atrocities that the Fulanis are committing. So when you see all these things that Fulanis are doing, the people say they are master strategists. No, it's not the Fulani. They don't know anything. You understand me? It is the manipulator, the Western powers that write the plan of what the Fulanis are, what they're implementing through the Fulanis. You tell me, I've told you about the Trojan horses. I've told you about the climate change that is coming. I've told you about the lion hunting with the wolf and all that. When they caught a stab or whatever they caught, they divide it, and the lion will say, "Quarter me this, quarter me that, quarter that." And he took everything. That is what is happening. I've always told you that they want to use this their conspiratorial gang up to eliminate the Igbos. After the Igbos, they will eliminate the Yorubas. After the same Yorubas, this conspiratorial gang up of Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, and all that. After eliminating the Yoruba, they will still, the same Fulani will eliminate the Hausas. After eliminating the Hausas, then the masters who are behind this thing, they will eliminate the Fulanis. I told you climate change is coming. Their civilization is dying and all that. The ice age is coming and all that. So they want to take over Africa and all that. So they have started the manipulation. That is what is behind it. So people should go and look at my past messages so that they can equally be able to follow up. So this document I'm going to read for you is Why We Struck, the story of the first Nigerian coup by Adiwale Ademoyega. He's a Yoruba man. That was the one Benguli was quoting about. I'm not going into what Benguli said. But let me go to chapter 1 of the book and actually go there to tell you. This is what chapter 1 said. He said, I'm quoting from the book. He said, Nigeria's political problems sprang from the carefree manner in which the British took over, administered, and abandoned the government and people of Nigeria. British administrators did not make an effort to weigh the country together and unite the heterogeneous group of people. This does not imply that British administrators did nothing good in Nigeria. Far from it. Many things stand to their credit, and it is clear that present-day Nigeria owes certain achievements to the spade work of British administrators. Nevertheless, there was one evil that outlived British administration, namely political non-advancements. When the British came, they forcefully rubber-stamped the political state of the ethnic groups of Nigeria and maintained that status quo until they left. Upon their departure, nearly 100 years later, the people resumed fighting for their political rights. When the British came to Nigeria as an imperial nation to take over the rulership of the country from 1861 with the secession of Lagos, they made the people of the South totally free, only observing and regulating their own monarchies and institutions. But in the North, the British made the Fulanis in the process of establishing their rulership in most parts except in the Kanuri area in the northeast. The gradual but continued establishment of Fulani rulership over the former independent states such as the Hausa, Bairam, Anga, Nupe, Tibi, and the Yorubas of Ilorin started in 1804 in Gobai, Sokoto, with the rebellion of Usman Dan Fodio. It was by the success of that rebellion alone that the Fulani, who formerly dwelt as strangers and settlers among the various peoples of the north, began to unseat the traditional rulers of these people and depose themselves and impose members of their own clan as rulers, styled emirs. They demolished the free monarchical institutions of these people and imposed on them as Islamic-oriented but feudalistic rulership. It was this rulership of the emirs and their kinsmen that reduced the northern people from their erstwhile free and happy landowner farmer state to an oppressed landless serf state, in which they had to pay 60% or more of their food crops, cattle, and other products to the village. Dangers of being a Nigerian and the implication to the whole world. I have taken us on a progressive journey from the biblical perspective down to the human element behind the scene that are manipulating things in Nigeria. Western powers represented by the British government. Now we are going to progress. I'm still going to show you this human element that are manipulating things in Nigeria. There's equally a force that is manipulating this human element. I'm going to show you that force that is manipulating this human element after giving you this particular final document on the manipulator, the human manipulator, the British government, and the atrocities they have been committing in Nigeria, which is the force behind what the atrocities that the Fulanis are committing. So when you see all these things that Fulanis are doing, the people say they are master strategists. No, it's not the Fulani. They don't know anything. You understand me? It is the manipulator, the Western powers that write the plan of what the Fulanis are, what they're implementing through the Fulanis. You understand me? I've told you about the Trojan horses. I've told you about the climate change that is coming. I've told you about the lion hunting with the wolf and all that. When they caught a stab or whatever they caught, they divide it, and the lion will say, "Quarter me this, quarter me that, quarter that," and he took everything. That is what is happening. I've always told you that they want to use this their conspiratorial gang up to eliminate the Igbos. After the Igbos, they will eliminate the Yorubas. After the same Yorubas, this conspiratorial gang up of Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, and all that. After eliminating the Yoruba, they will still, the same Fulani will eliminate the Hausas. After eliminating the Hausas, then the masters who are behind this thing, they will eliminate the Fulanis. I told you climate change is coming, their civilization is dying and all that. The ice age is coming and all that. So they want to take over Africa and all that. So they have started the manipulation. That is what is behind it. So people should go and look at my past messages so that they can equally be able to follow up. So this document I'm going to read for you is Why We Struck, the story of the first Nigerian coup by Adiwale Ademoyega. He's a Yoruba man. That was the one Benguli was quoting about. I'm not going into what Benguli said. But let me go to chapter 1 of the book and actually go there to tell you. This is what chapter 1 said. He said, I'm quoting from the book. He said, Nigeria's political problems sprang from the carefree manner in which the British took over, administered, and abandoned the government and people of Nigeria. British administrators did not make an effort to weigh the country together and unite the heterogeneous group of people. This does not imply that British administrators did nothing good in Nigeria. Far from it. Many things stand to their credit, and it is clear that present-day Nigeria owes certain achievements to the spade work of British administrators. Nevertheless, there was one evil that outlived British administration, namely political non-advancements. When the British came, they forcefully rubber-stamped the political state of the ethnic groups of Nigeria and maintained that status quo until they left. Upon their departure, nearly 100 years later, the people resumed fighting for their political rights. When the British came to Nigeria as an imperial nation to take over the rulership of the country from 1861 with the secession of Lagos, they made the people of the South totally free, only observing and regulating their own monarchies and institutions. But in the North, the British made the Fulanis in the process of establishing their rulership in most parts except in the Kanuri area in the northeast. The gradual but continued establishment of Fulani rulership over the former independent states such as the Hausa, Bairam, Anga, Nupe, Tibi, and the Yorubas of Ilorin started in 1804 in Gobai, Sokoto, with the rebellion of Usman Dan Fodio. It was by the success of that rebellion alone that the Fulani, who formerly dwelt as strangers and settlers among the various peoples of the north, began to unseat the traditional rulers of these people and depose themselves and impose members of their own clan as rulers, styled emirs. They demolished the free monarchical institutions of these people and imposed on them as Islamic-oriented but feudalistic rulership. It was this rulership of the emirs and their kinsmen that reduced the northern people from their erstwhile free and happy landowner farmer state to an oppressed landless serf state, in which they had to pay 60% or more of their food crops, cattle, and other products to the village. In which they had to pay 60% or more of their food crops, cattle, and other products to the village head, district head, and the emir in political homage. In addition, those of them who had accepted Islam had to worship behind the state political leaders in religious homage. In that way, the Fulani aristocratic feudalism was established in the north. It is to the discredit of the British that they who understood the principles of personal liberty and who had nurtured the ideas of social justice for 1200 years still came to Nigeria in the latter part of the 19th century simply to bolster up the forces of feudalism and so prolong the oppression of the people. As was traditional, the people of the north did not meekly give in to the rulership of the Fulani. They strove hard to pull down the strange rulership, especially because it completely took away the political freedom to which they were accustomed. Unfortunately for them, the British came in at this particular time with a superior military force and imposed the Beast of Britain, rubber stamping the Fulani hegemony over the whole area. After that, every effort by the people to be free was regarded as a rebellion against British rulership and was forcefully suppressed. That is what the British people have been doing till today. That's what they did to Esazaki, and that is what the Fulanis are playing out today in Nigeria. So the British are the people that are behind all these atrocities that are being committed in this country. You see how they wipe out the Hausas. So this is what they do. The Hausas, they don't allow them to go to school so that the Hausas continue to be the miscreants and the supply line for the Boko Haram. That is what they do. Look at the Emir of Kano. The other day he married an 18-year-old girl, sent her to London, and she just graduated and came back from London. That is the fourth wife or whatever. So the Fulanis, they don't go to school. So what is there? The Fulanis, the miscreants, now they are the supply line to the Boko Haram. That is why the Boko Haram cannot stop. The United Nations will trade them as civilian JTF. Then they got absorbed into the Boko Haram thing. Then when they got absorbed into the Boko Haram, they start to kill Southern soldiers. And when they are called Buhari, we release them. They say they are going for reintegration and they want to reorient them, whatever it is. They are radicals, so they want to turn them around. And then when they do that, they pardon them and they integrate them into the Nigerian army, bring them to the south as soldiers, and they'll be killing Biafrans. That is what have been going on. That is the racket that have been going on. Look at it. That is the racket that they have been playing up to today. Now, if the outsiders ever hope to take back their destiny in this world again and fulfill the natural divine law of God, who created them by passing their gene to this next succeeding generation, as their forefathers did for them, now it's a very big opportunity for them to reclaim their destiny by terminating all the emirs in their domain. The emirs don't have any, the Fulani emirs don't have any foot soldier. The Hausas are their foot soldiers. Now it's a very big opportunity to remove all of them from A to Z, to repossess their land and make them to be the strangers they used to be. These are alliance people of unknown origin. I've shown you their Charles Darwin's missing link. So now it's a very big opportunity for you to remove all of them from A to Z, If you ever hope to be respected in the annals of human history, who bear witness to your existence, now it's a very big opportunity for you to do that once and for all. And this opportunity that is presented to you will never come again. So now is the time. If you want an iron to bend, hit it when it is red. When it is hot and shiny red, that is when you hit it. Now that this iron is red, hit it and it will bend. Dethrone the Fulanis and repossess their land. They are strangers in Nigeria. The war is upon you. And if you don't make haste to do what I'm telling you to do, you are getting to be into a very deeper problem, because you're all gone. Your future generation is gone. So now it's a very big opportunity. Now let's look at some reports to substantiate what I've been saying about United Nations and all that. Now, herdsmen, Boko Haram orders killed 25,794 Nigerians during Buhari's first term report. This is by Herald newspaper of June 6, 2019. I'll show you another one. It says, banditry. Over 3,000 killed, 500 villages affected in Zamfara. That is by the Governor Yari. Nation newspaper of April 9, 2019. You see the number of people they killed? Not even one single person has been prosecuted. What is the return? You grant them amnesty, you give them 100 billion for killing Nigerians. That is what we get. And you're looking at the sponsors of Boko Haram. Now look at this one. It says 281 ex-Boko Haram fighters underwent spiritual counseling. This is by Defense Headquarters. This is Punch of October 11, 2019. I have to read this report so that the world will hear. It says no fewer than 281 former Boko Haram fighters have been taken through a 52-week psycho-spiritual counseling and psychotherapy under the Operation Safe Corridor program being run by the Defense Headquarters Abuja in Gombe State. The Defense Headquarters confirmed this figure to our correspondent, exclusively noting that the aim of the program, which began in September 2015, was to encourage willing and repentant Boko Haram terrorists to surrender and go through the radicalization process. On Monday, our correspondent gathered from the Defense Headquarters that 281 terrorists have passed through the Operation Safe Corridor in Gombe State and taken through spiritual and vocational counseling. The military also noted that arrangements was underway to admit another set of over 650 surrendered Boko Haram terrorists for the de-radicalization program. In a document sent to our correspondent, the Defense Headquarters said, I'm quoting them, the Commander-in-Chief, President Muhammadu Buhari, established Operation Safe Haven in September 2015 to encourage willing and repentant Boko Haram combatants to surrender and go through a structured de-radicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration program. The objective of the operation is to deplete the fighting force of the terrorists. The ex-combatants go through a 52-week program involving psycho-spiritual counseling, psychotherapy, recreation, drug use, drug use intervention, introduction to Western education, and vocational training. In the course of the program, visitation by families and prominent personalities are organized to promote confidence and ensure smooth reintegration. The ex-combatants also appear before a quasi-judicial panel where they confess their past deeds, denounce membership of the Boko Haram, and swear an oath of allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They don't even go to court. Court is something, not a normal court, you know. Something that is not even a normal court, just a make-believe, you know, they just confess and they are released. Look at it. Since inception, 281 ex-combatants and associate persons have gone through the program, out of which 254, including 2 Chadians, have been successfully transferred to their country and states for reintegration. It is on record that Advert report has been received. It is on record no Advert report has been received concerning any of these persons. Arrangements are underway to abduct another set of over 650 surrendered terrorists for the DRR program. And you are looking for the sponsors of Boko Haram. Look at your head of state, your president, terrorists. And the world is looking. These are good. They are going to go through the International Criminal Court. All these people. You see it? They put them, and they, they after killing. Look at the number of people they have killed. You throw them into the society, push certain soldiers, Christian soldiers, different soldiers to go and fight them, and they clear them. Abtiku said that 1,000 Christian soldiers, 1,000 soldiers were very secretly, and Ndume confirmed it, and they are still denying, still denying. One night, tell out the name, they cannot. Now look at this report again. It's a Boko Haram commander freed in Chibok Gears. They say no advance report. Let's wait the evidence. It's a Boko Haram commander freed in Chibok Gears swap day resurfaces, issues fresh threat against Nigeria. This is Sahara Reporters of March 7, 2018. Let me read it just briefly. Schwab Money, Boko Haram commander, who was freed in exchange for some 82 kidnapped Chibok Gears in a day facilitated by the Swedish government last May, has issued fresh threat against the Nigerian state. A video exclusively obtained by Sahara Reporters shows Money and some members of his team displaying firepower in Sambisa forest. Money, who spoke in Hausa and Arabic, stated that contrary to claims by the Nigerian government that Boko Haram fighters have been chased out of Sambisa forest in Borno State, they, Boko Haram terrorists, remain firmly on ground. He subsequently threatened to unleash further violence on Nigeria in coming days. Money made no mention of the recently kidnapped Baptist school girls. The girls are believed to be in the custody of another faction controlled by Abu Musab Abanawi, the splinter group recognized by ISIS. This is not what we are treating here. You see what happened? They say now that's effect on the ones that have been released. But you see what happened? The money they release, you see what it's doing? They send our Christian soldiers, Biafran soldiers there. Money is carrying automatic. They give them this old police long gun that do kapu. Before they do kapu. Most of them will use automatic weapons and finish all of them. That's what has been happening. After the Boko Haram is what Obasanjo with Bill Clinton, Kofi Annan, United Nations, they were the people that formed Boko Haram. They were the people that kidnapped the Chibok girls. This is not the story we are going to talk today. The evidence is there. It was Buhari with Daura and others that kidnapped the Baptist school girls because they wanted to release Abu Musaba Banawi, who was captured by the DSS. They want to release them in exchange for they kidnapped the Baptist school girls so that they can use the Baptist school girls as a leeway to release Abu Musab and Abanawi and others, because it was this Abu Musab Abanawi that you used to prove the American CIA involvement in the Boko Haram terrorists that are ravaging our country today. That was what happened. That was why the Baptist school girls were kidnapped. So that is another issue. I'm not even going into that now. So insurgency, militia frees 900 children in Northeast. Look at it. Daily Times, May 11, 2019. The United Nations Children Fund has revealed that a regional militia allied with Nigerian government forces freed on Friday almost 900 children. That's what they do. Through United Nations train these children. They go to Boko Haram. When they go to Boko Haram, they go up, they kill our people. When they go, Buhari will release them. Then they will come back again. They reintegrate them. They say they are doing whatever. They you see, they will still reintegrate them into the army. Send them to Biafra land and they will be killing everybody in Biafra land. That's what has been happening. You see, Nigerian and Boko Haram, Nigeria expecting 18 fighters aircraft from US, Italy, says military. This is punch of December 8, 2018. Where is the country that is called Boko Haram in Nigeria? Where is the country they say they have been defeated? Where are Boko Haram prisoners of war? So all these fighter jets are not for Boko Haram. They are for war in Biafra land. But that's another topic. You see? Look at Obasanjo, who formed Boko Haram. What did he tell you? He said Boko Haram will continue for 15 years. If Obasanjo, that is, he said this one on August 21, 2009. The newspapers carried it. So this is not what I'm going to. Let me show you one more last document to substantiate what I've been saying about the British government. The Western powers, who are represented by the British government. Let me just show you more of this report. Then I go into to show you the human element, the manipulator, who manipulate the manipulators themselves. So look at it. This is a book I'm going to read now for you to as a part of the document I'm presenting. It says this book is how in pursuit of political objective in the Nigerian Civil War, a number of great and small nations, including Britain and the United States, worked to prevent supplies of food and medicine from reaching the starving children of rebel Biafra. The name of the book is The Brutality of Nations by Dan Jacobs. Now let me read a bit of the inside, and then I give you the profile of the man before you go into that rating. It says Biafra 1968, the first of Africa's tragic famine. Some 2 million people starved, mostly children, as the Red Cross and other agencies were prevented from providing enough food for a besieged population. Now, in The Brutality of Nations, Dan Jacob gives us an extraordinary account of how several governments colluded in the campaign to keep relief from reaching the Biafrans, thus prolonging the famine for 2 years. In the midst of this first great explosion in post-colonial Africa, the highly educated Igbo massacred in other parts of Nigeria sought safety in independence. Other Nigerians blockaded them, then went to war to keep the Biafrans from succeeding with the oil riches of the nation. Soon cut off from their usual sources of food, the smallest Igbo children began starving. UNICEF, Oxfam, and other agencies attempted to rush in food, and then Jacob makes clear for the first time how this international effort was thwarted. He takes us to Washington, where a handful of men in the State Department managed to deflect the sentiment of Hubert Humphrey, Richard Nixon, and other Americans who favored humanitarian aid for the beleaguered people. To the United Nations, where Secretary General U. Tant adopted a correct, this correct is in quote, which means it was a wrong decision. A correct diplomatic stance, avoiding international intervention to London, where the government of Prime Minister Harold Wilson resisted pressure to cut off British arms supply to the Nigerian federal government, fearing that to do so would cause the Nigerians to turn to the Soviet Union. Jacob reveals how, as the toll mounted in Biafra to 12,000 deaths by starvation each day, 12,000 deaths each day of a particular tribe, the British used the international community of the Red Cross as an unwitting pawn to mislead the world about just who was obstructing the relief agencies in their attempt to relieve food into Biafra. How, when enough food finally did begin to get through, the Nigerian and the British, still determined to halt the airlift, resorted to such measures as shooting down a Red Cross plane. And how, after the war ended, as starvation continued, a few U.S. State Department officials, after the war, officials stood in the way of new relief initiative, leaving tens of thousands more to die. Even after the war, tens of thousands more died of a particular race, the Biafrans. But Dan Jacob, who was the United Nations spokesman at the time of the war and later helped organize a private American effort to enlarge the airlift, spent years interviewing government and relief officials to uncover the facts of this man-made disaster. He presents his often shocking findings with a clarity and objective in a report that is highly instructive, especially in light of recent American intervention in the affairs of other nations and the controversies surrounding the problem of continued starvation in Africa. But this is also the long overdue story of a very particular strategy and a cruel example of the ways in which the interest of government can be at profound odds with the need of human beings. Then let me give you a little bit background about this Dan Jacob. He said Dan Jacob has had long experience in international affairs and politics as a speechwriter for Hubert Humphrey and other public figures, as a political analyst with the Senate Subcommittee on Disarmament, and as a writer on social development for the United Nations and other organizations. He was educated at Harvard and formerly conducted a daily interview program named Backgrounds on station WGBH, that is Boston. He served as executive director of the Committee for Nigerian Biafra Relief and recently prepared a study for UNICEF on the predicament of children in wars. He lived in New York City. That is what they are still running, what they are running up to today in the ongoing jihad that is coming, that is already on now. I'll still give you more facts, you know. This is the last document I will read on this. Now we are going to enter into we are going to see the forces that are controlling these Western forces. The same Western forces that are behind the Fulani, that are behind what is happening in Nigeria. We are going to see the forces that control them, and that is where we are going to end this program, so that Nigerians will see the actual danger of being a Nigerian and the global implication of it. We are going to see that now. Now continue with the book. As mentioned earlier, there are other places Satan's spirit has been working, but the difference is Satan lives and put a less glutinous fallen angel in charge anytime they succeed in putting in place a social system that gives room to freedom of expressions of thought and character development, and they are judged by those standards. So their actions most often are by free moral agency or choice. But our situation in Nigeria is very unique, completely different, because the devil's native system of government foisted on the people of Nigeria, which has become the only and absolute means of our collective wealth and resource distribution, is in the hands of the devil, and he dispenses as he pleases. Have all of us eating from his palm, sharing in his pollution, which brings us to compromise our ethics and morals. Ensure we satisfy his gluttony by indulging in all sorts of atrocities which feeds the devil, killing one another in order to feed from the crumb which fell from Satan's table, which makes it almost impossible for one to earn and live by an honest meal. You don't change a bad system from inside by joining them, because the same spirit that controls the inside will control you if you join. So you stay out. Let the people of God stop eating from the palms of the devil, because that is the only weapon he uses in binding us and in bringing us to do his way, by making all of us drink from the same cup of iniquity in his hand, which is why the saintly in Nigeria compromise their belief for a measure of Satan's porridge, because we are all drinking with him from his damn leprous cup of iniquity. We should also stop depending on the so-called developed world for our deliverance if we want to enjoy the benefit of being a developed nation by realizing the country of our dream. Then we have to summon courage and stand once and for all to confront our problem in this nation, instead of postponing it to innocent generations yet unborn. And moreover, there may be no tomorrow, there may be no more tomorrow for our children except that of slavery. This was in 1999. Except that of slavery. The developed countries our youth run to seek asylum did not fall from heaven. They are made by the people and even built by the wisdom of the civilization of the African continent that Satan stole and transferred to the Greeks, Roman, Europeans, and their collaborators, and act that enabled Lucifer to satiate his fiendish appetite during the ensuing slave trade and the dark moments of African history. It is the same so-called advanced countries that turn around to claim that civilization originated from their shores, something they hijacked from Africa, notably North of Africa, encouraged by the Egyptian culture, which made education only a thing for the children of the noble, and chiefly by the secret system of writing, hieroglyphics, which ensures that when Alexander the Great and his rampaging troops invaded and conquered Egypt, the royal library of the Egyptians at Alexandria was looted by Alexander and his invading army and burned by them after the looting. They stole all the valuable books of the Egyptians and burned down the library. The Egyptian wise men were hounded and killed. The immense knowledge in both astrology and other fields, a people's heritage, a people's advanced legacy, was virtually uprooted and transferred to a foreign land. A more sophisticated and superior knowledge was basically uprooted and transferred to a country of less privileged heritage, a country of inferior knowledge. The same way The same way the oil weight of the Ogonese and other oil-producing areas are used to develop other parts of the country, leaving horrifying excavation holes in their landmass to their detriment. What proof, if things continue this way, with the coming generation of the Ogonese and others have to show that the gaping holes staring them in the face was as a result of oil well of staggering value stolen from their land, despite the fact that the generation that will abuse them owe their opulence to them. And no matter what they do, the leap of truth shall be established forever. A lying tongue is but for a moment, and anybody who says it is the wish of God that a person who cooks a soup must not taste of it is talking nonsense. And to be free from all fears, we must have but one fear, the fear of God, otherwise desires are in vain. Suddenly, the scions of the inheritors of the stolen African knowledge became wise men renowned for advancing original superior arguments in various disciplines based on their research into the decoded books stolen from Egypt by Alexander the Great. They became philosophers of jack of all trades because the knowledge did not originate from them. This made it possible for one single individual to propound and advocate landmark fundamental theories in different disciplines at the same time, which was not intellectually possible on a single lifespan. Men like Socrates and Pythagoras and so on and so forth advocated theories in diametrically opposed disciplines at the same time because the knowledge was not there, coupled with the fact that they came from a land of inferior knowledge. Therefore, the theories they were propagating were not in consonance with their surroundings. Their people cannot identify their theories with their backward surroundings because the scope and magnitude of the arguments were so intellectually advanced that their people lacked the intellectual wherewithal to comprehend their ideas. Their ideas were foreign to their people, who in turn persecuted and killed them for preaching a foreign doctrine. The lucky ones ran away and went into Israel, where they lived until they died. Some committed suicide, and yet others were killed by their own people. If the doctrine they propagated originated from them actually, then the enabling background would have been existing to accommodate the ideas. So it was that presumed intellectual superiority of the white man over the black man was based on the fundamental articulated knowledge of the African, carted away by their foreigners, by their phobias, wiping all traces, not even mentioning our past heritage stolen by their phobias, thereby subjugating the Africans and the black man to the dehumanizing position as the dumping ground of the so-called Western civilization, calling us the third world, the ghetto of decadent civilization, custodians of backwardness and the borrower continent, in a thing they should by right be the head. Of course, many of them knew because their phobia told them that the belief of intellectual superiority over the black man is a lie, a serious misconception, and the so-called developed world have always been sleeping with one eye open because of the black man. Liberation of the black man is not in their interest because it will correct this life and put the record straight by events which will unfold almost immediately, primarily because the advancement of the black man will be so astronomical combination of brain and natural endowment that they in turn will become the dumping ground for made in African Tokumbo goods. The liberation of Nigeria is by the liberation of Biafra is by implication the liberation of the what was here was Nigeria, but I'm replacing it with Biafra. The liberation of Biafra is by implication the liberation of the whole blood, both in Africa and the diaspora. They know it, which is responsible for their lackluster posture on the plight of the common Nigerian men and women, and even encourages the situation here. We should have to stop looking up to them for deliverance because the devil and his cohorts are using many of them to hold us in bondage. Where was international morality when slavery was to their advantage? Slavery stopped, and this is very, very important. Why the slavery stopped? It's not out of their own Christian nobility. No, that was wrong. Slavery stopped because of industrial revolution, discovery of invention of machine, not because of their bankrupt conscience. So their morality is in terms of money. When slavery turned to their disadvantage, did they ever try to reintegrate the already displaced slaves? They wanted to deport them back to Africa and actually deported most of them to such cities as Freetown and so on and so forth. If not for them, we would have been free a long time because each time the agitation becomes so strong as to change the system, they will steal the thunder from us with threats of waste and sanctions against the oppressors of the people. Laudable threats that could have solved our problems if carried out. The resolve of the people will now weaken as a result of looking up to them to solve our problems. They will then carry out only minimal threats and cosmetic changes and quickly reorganize with the status quo in chaining the people in order to continue to steal the people's resources. Satan is insinuating them and they know it. Their responses to situations are most often based on deceit of the people, falsehood, carnally, nonchalantly, and fraudulently, because their knowledge is for self-aggrandizement as they are being manipulated by Lucifer, the evil one. The Jews of old we are still waiting for their Messiah to come when they have already hung the Messiah. Their Messiah have come and gone, and because they were sleeping, did not recognize him. Nigerian problem is not ordinary, and only divine intervention can solve it. That divine solution have already taken place, but the people of Nigeria, like the Jews, are still sleeping and waiting for the divine intervention to take place, which have already come and gone. They did not discern the time of their being inspected. Abiola was the opportunity that God gave us to be free and address the totality of the problems that have so easily beset us. Unfortunately, because we have slumbered, have rejected by refusing to recognize it as such, and the grave implication is that the opportunity will move to another corner to our detriment, and we will remain in darkness, bearing in mind that no light, because darkness is